Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com and, of course, UnderstandingAutoimmune.com, where you can find over 450 plus episodes of the show. And tonight, I'm really excited. This is not a topic I've talked a lot about, which I find kind of strange because my autoimmune condition does involve this major organ of our body. Oh my gosh. I had a friend introduce me to Dr. Fayne Frey, and she is known as the Ralph Nader of the skincare industry. That's right. We're going to talk about skin and our skincare. And yes, it's an organ. We'll talk to her about that too. I learned that a few years ago during my diagnosis, and I was really surprised that they call it that. And the other thing I learned, and we're going to talk to her about because she's an expert in, is how the skin is one of the major ways that toxins get in and out. So think about that. I never thought about my skin that much. I don't know why. It's like breathing, it's always there, right? Anyway, let me tell you more about her because she's awesome. Dr. Fayne Frey is a New York based, Ivy League trained, board certified dermatologist where she specializes in the diagnosis and treatment of skin cancer and a skincare consultant as a nationally recognized expert in the effectiveness and formulation of over the counter skincare products. I'll tell you, sometimes I read the back of those skincare products on the makeup counters and things, and I don't know if that's safe to put on my skin or not, and especially where I have a skin condition. So we're going to ask her all that kind of stuff. Let me go on because she is just amazing. She's got a book out. We'll talk about that. And she is a contributor to an editorial board of the 50 Plus Today, a top rated online senior lifestyle magazine, and the Doctor Weighs In, one of the leading online resources for trusted health and wellness information. She's a frequent speaker on the topic of skincare and all these skincare products and understanding our skin. So I could go on and on. She's just awesome. Her bio is just amazing. Welcome, Dr. Frey. Thanks for being on the show.
Darren, thank you for having me. It's truly my pleasure.
Now, I'm so excited. As I mentioned in the opening, and most of my community knows that I have dermatomyositis. Dermato, obviously, for my community means skin. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, tell us about the importance of our skin. I think maybe it's just me, but I took just it for granted for years, and I came from the generation of baby oil and sun. Let's just talk a little bit about the importance of skin, and then we'll get into some of the more nuances of it.
Sure, the skin is, like you said, the largest organ, and it is an organ. It is our barrier to the outside world. It protects us from the environment, things like bacteria and fungus and mold and allergens and ultraviolet light. And as an organ, you want a healthy skin, it's going to parallel a healthy body. So, in general, the things that are good for your being are likely also good for your health. And it is an amazing organ. It's designed actually to keep things out. The skin is designed with a top layer of 20 cell layers thick that are designed very much like a brick wall, and it is designed to keep things out. Each of those cells are not living, they are dead, but they are functional. And each is wrapped in fat, which is why you can swim in the ocean for hours, right? Nothing goes into you and nothing comes out of you. You're waterproof. You can scrub dishes at the sink after a holiday meal. You scrub and you have the cleanser and you use Brillo pads and you wipe your hands and they're just like you left them. The skin is an amazing organ and it is truly your barrier to the outside world. And so it would behooves us all to take care of it.
Wow. Like breathing, I never thought that I am like in a waterproof suit. Never thought. I don't know why I don't think about that. I guess because you're, like I said, like breathing, you're born with it. You take it for granted, right?
Yeah, most people think of it as a thing of beauty, but it serves a function. It's a very important function. It's got immunologic function. It's got a lot of fun tactile, right? Whether you feel pain, heat, vibration, think of all the things that you get out of the skin. We don't think of it that way, but it is an important organ. And again, we need to learn how to take care of it.
I'm going to ask some somewhat personal questions because I think maybe other people in my community are from that same generation. I mentioned I'm from the generation of baby oil and sun. So, are there things we can do that if we haven't treated our skin lovingly and caringly in our early years, are there things we can do to refresh it, re-enhance it, help it?
Absolutely. If you haven't taken care of yourself, including your skin, there's no time like the present. And the things that we do to take care of our skin are the things we do to take care of ourselves. And it's not the sexy answer, Sharon. It's not what people want to hear, the quick fix, the jar, the bottle, the syringe. It's things that you know. It's getting good nights of sleep. And there's science to show that. A good nights of sleep improves skin tone and texture. Exercise, eating a healthy diet. Again, it's not the easy fix, it's not the quick fix, but it's the fix. As far as skin care is concerned, sunscreen, the application of sunscreen to protect the skin from the damaging rays of the sun every single day. And there's even some evidence to show that even though you've had all that sun and have had all the damage from the ultraviolet light, wearing sunscreen will allow the skin to actually repair itself. And some of the pigment and certainly some of the tone and texture can improve just by wearing sunscreen every day, not exposing the skin to the harmful rays of the sun's UV rays.
Now, that brings me to the topic of sunscreen. How do we know a good sunscreen from maybe a not so good sunscreen? And if we have skin conditions, are there things we have to watch out for putting a sunscreen on our skin?
And that's a loaded question because if you have sensitive skin, there are probably 5 categories of ingredients that we should always be careful of. Before I go into them, I should tell people who have sensitive skin is to use fewer products, right? The skincare industry is a great industry. I love it, but it is in a marketing frenzy and it's getting us all to believe or trying to get us all to believe that we need all these products. And the truth is we don't. And you hit it in the very beginning when you talked about not understanding the ingredient listing. Skincare companies have a huge advantage, Sharon, in that they they take advantage because the most important information on any skincare product, whether it's a moisturizer or a sunscreen, is that ingredient listing. And you said it, most people don't understand it. So all they can do is go by the front panel, what's on the front panel. And that's a lot of marketing. So, what is someone to do who has sensitive skin? The first thing to do is ask yourself, do you really need that product? Do you really need that toner, that eye cream, that night cream, the astringent, the primer, go on and on? And the answer to most of the time is going to be no. What you will need is a sunscreen. And if you have sensitive skin or you have a skin condition, always test the product on the back of your ear, perhaps, or on your forearm. Test it for a few days to be sure it's agreeing with you. It's still no guarantee that you won't have a reaction when you put it on your face, but it may give you a little warning that this product isn't agreeing with you. So I always, tell my patients to test a product, especially those patients who have sensitive skin or skin conditions.
I've never heard about it on the ear. That's fascinating to
Yeah,
me.
right behind the ear, because it mimics very closely to his facial skin. And if you have a reaction, nobody's going to see it. That's a good spot.
That's what I was thinking because my arm has been through a lot more, like with all sorts of soaps and whatever. My arm seems like it's a tougher skin than my
Hmm.
face. So maybe that's just aging. But my that's a great tip to put it behind our ear. Now, so some of the things I'm thinking out loud here to be aware of is if we feel an irritation, if it starts to itch, what are some other things we'd go, this is a reaction that we
Oh, you'll know itching, scaling, swelling, redness, oozing, any kinds. Some people get a runny nose, itching or burning eyes. Symptoms can range anywhere from a very mild redness all the way to something we call anaphylaxis, where your chest tightens and you can't breathe. Fortunately, that's rare, but it can happen. So if most people know that themselves and they start feeling something, obviously you don't use that product.
Now, sometimes when I turn most of the time when I turn a product over, actually, there's all these ingredients, long words that I have no idea how to say, let alone spell. Is there any way to know just by the ingredient list that maybe I might be sensitive to this? Are there certain things that I should look for?
Short of being a chemist and understanding skincare product formulation, it's a very tough ask to ask the average consumer to understand that ingredient listing.
Let alone pronounce any of it.
But with that being said, this is what I tell you, there are certain types of ingredients that you can avoid. So, again, the first and most important point is try to use fewer products. Do you really need the product? Number one. The answer to that would be yes for sunscreen. And if your skin is dry, yes, you would need a moisturizer because, like I said, the skin is an organ and it functions best when it's hydrated. And when it's not hydrated well, the skin appears dry and flaky, and it's not the best barrier to the outside world. And so you want to hydrate the skin, and you do that with a moisturizer. So if you need a moisturizer or you need a sunscreen, number one, avoid fragrance. Fragrance is probably the most common type of ingredient that would cause a reaction. Always choose products that have no fragrance. That's probably one of the most important tips. Two, again, test the product behind your ear if you can. Three, avoid products that have retinol in it. They're very irritating, even to people who don't have sensitive skin. Or retinol is another common ingredient. Essential oils. A lot of my patients with sensitive skin think they're going to put some sort of citrus oil or lavender oil in. Those actually can be quite irritating. These are plant extracts. They're high allergenic, meaning the skin recognizes them as foreign. They are great emollients, meaning they ooze in between the dry, scaly skin, so it might feel good. But in actuality, they don't function well as moisturizers. They don't help the skin increase water content. So I tell my patients to stay away from essential oils. And then the other category of ingredients that can commonly cause a reaction, they're hard to avoid, are preservatives. And they're hard to avoid because almost all these products are water based. And any skincare product that is water based, if there's no preservative within 11, 12, 13 days, you're going to have mold. And nobody wants to be putting mold infested, fungus infested product near their eyes and their mouth and on their skin. You need to have a preservative. And yes, they're safe for most people in the doses they're used. It's 0.1%. They're used in tiny doses. But in people with sensitivities, allergies, eczema, sensitive skin, I tell again people to put a little bit behind their ear and test the product before they go ahead and apply it to their entire face.
So many things to think about that I never thought about. It's a little overwhelming. Now, you've mentioned hydration, and I've often wondered about drinking water. Does that hydrate the skin, or is that just hydrating me?
That's hydrating you. The skin, those top 20 layers that we talked about, the ones that are wrapped in fat, those non living cells contain little compounds in them. In science, we call them natural moisturizing factor. They're little compounds that act as sponges. And they actually draw water from the lower level of skin into the surface, which is why men in particular who never moisturize, and when you feel their skin, it's very soft. They're not chipping and cracking. Their skin isn't falling onto the sidewalk. And that's because the skin moisturizes itself. So skin hydration is gotten from the skin itself. There is no evidence. It's just not there. When you can drink all the water you want, you're going to run to the bathroom. And now keep in mind, Sharon, I'm talking about people who are healthy, not people who have kidney stones or perhaps they're on a certain medication and their doctor says they need to hydrate. Different story. I'm talking about healthy people. Your body is amazing. If your body needs more water, it's an incredible system. The body makes you feel a certain way. You feel thirsty. You'll know when you need more water. Just drinking water in and of itself is not going to hydrate the skin. And most people, if you have a sort of a nutritious diet, will get 20 to 30% of their water requirement through their food, right? Fruits and vegetables are very high content food, sometimes over 90%. So if you eat well, you'll get 20 to 30% of your water requirement through your food, negating the fact that you need to then go ahead and drink this 8 glasses of water a day, which is what people say you need. But you do not need to force feed yourself water.
Mm. Now, uh, given my age, and I hate this term, but I hear it a lot, women your age, my skin feels more fragile now that I'm through menopause and stuff. Is that my imagination, or is it technically, it feels more fragile and I have to take greater
Yes.
care of it?
So the top layer of skin is called the epidermis. It thins as you get older. The second layer is called the dermis. The structural proteins, they're not quite as strong. And the elastin, the rubberized ability to stretch, it doesn't function as well when you get older. A lot of the times it's because of the sun. And as importantly, the third level of skin is called fat. And as we get older, that third level of fat or subcutis gets thin. And the thinning of that third layer, that's really why sometimes the skin looks crepey and thin. That fat actually is a good function. It's like a little insulator. And when you lose that, that also contributes to the more fragile or the fragility of skin as we get older. So it is not your imagination. You are absolutely right. The skin does get thinner and more fragile as we get older, necessitating more hydration. So that's more reason why we should be hydrating the skin and protecting it from the sun.
Okay, now this has popped into my head. Doesn't require a comment unless you want to, but this is so unfair. I'm losing fat under my skin, but gaining it everywhere else. So
Fat redistributes as you get older. A lot of women, they want Botox in their forehead, but you have to realize an aging face is not just a wrinkle. You lose musculature in the face, you lose fat in certain areas, fat redistributes, right? So it's not just a wrinkle, it's the entire soft tissue changes. So you make a good point, but that's why when people do those kinds of things, certainly to an extreme, they don't look natural. They're fixing one problem, but they're not doing anything for the other problem.
that's what I'm thinking about. Especially the skin where I'm like, okay, so the fat's disappearing there and obviously showing up on my hips. But I wanted to back up because you mentioned a word that I swear every other television commercial contains the word retinol. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. I know I'm jumping all around, but my community knows it, the stream of consciousness show. When you mentioned the word retinol, it caught my attention because, like I said, I swear every time you look at the latest, greatest, or the television ad, whatever, they're talking about that ingredient, but it's something that we should be at least alert to, right?
Look, you're opening a can of worms. I love the skincare industry. It really is a good industry. It makes products that are good for us, as I said. But they have to abide by the laws. And Sharon, the law in this country says that if a company makes a product that intends to really change the structure or function of the skin, which includes getting rid of your wrinkles, by law, that product is a drug. And if it's a drug, the law says it has to get pre market approval. It has to go to the FDA and prove safety and efficacy before it hits the shelves. The anti aging market are cosmetics. Cosmetics are designed to beautify or adorn. Now, because a lot of these products are formulated as good moisturizers, they increase water content of skin. So if you take a raisin and pump water into it, you get a grape. It's temporary, but is that an anti wrinkle product? Maybe temporarily, but as a moisturizer, it's considered a cosmetic. So what the industry figured out is that consumers are willing to pay more for more of a promise. It doesn't mean that promise delivers. And so they make moisturizers and good ones, and they'll angel dust them with a lot of ingredients that will satisfy the claim on the front of the bottle, in my opinion. And retinol to me is the granddaddy, the buzzword of all buzzwords is anti-aging. It's probably close to a $30 billion market in this country. And retinol, which is in the family of vitamin A derivatives, in a petri dish has been shown to make some effects on cells, and it does. But when used in usual and customary conditions on the skin, remember those 20 layers of non-living? That retinol, in such tiny doses, has a real tough time penetrating those 20 layers through the rest of the viable epidermis, top layer, into the dermis where it's going to make a difference in wrinkles. Again, this is a cosmetic, not designed to really get rid of wrinkle. And if you listen to the ads, it says decreases the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, just like a moisturizer would. I call it angel dusting. They add tiny bits to satisfy the claim. This is a cosmetic. It is a moisturizer. It can't design, it's not intended to change the structure or function of skin. It can't by law. That's not my opinion. That's just how the laws are written. But it sells. Again, the consumer is willing to pay more for a promise. So we have this whole class of cosmetics that are, in my opinion, how well they work. And I test products in my office. How well they work really depends on how well they moisturize.
That's amazing to me. I am learning so much. I'm running out of questions because I'm in a state of shock here. I had no idea the difference between the pharmaceutical and the cosmetics and that there was this differentiation in the laws about them. That's amazing.
Correct. And there's no in between. In this country, it's either a drug that changes the structure or function or intends to, treats or mitigates or prevents disease. Those are all drugs. Or a cosmetic that beautifies or alters the appearance because it's hydrating. And again, I test products objectively. I have this great machine. It's called the corneometer. So I'll have a patient come in and I'll test the water content of their skin. It's a little probe. You put it on the skin, and through electrical conductance, a little like a charge, I can get an objective number as to how much hydration is in the skin. I then give them two products, one to use on each forearm twice a day for a week. And they go home and they come back a week later and I retest the forearm so I can see how hydrated the skin is. So I'm getting a really good objective measurement of how well these products are working. And I can promise you two things after doing this for decades. One, how well a product works. I don't care what kind of angel dusting ingredients in there, whether it's retinol or niacinamide or vitamin C or vitamin E or coenzyme Q, I can rattle them all off. How well it works depends on how well it moisturizes, number one. And number two, there is no correlation whatsoever between what you pay for a moisturizer and how well it works. I've tested products that were $8 a pound that worked phenomenally. And I've tested products that were $500 an ounce. You know what an ounce is? It's a shot
The
glass,
tiny little
little
bit.
tiny, little shot glass. An ounce, that's $8,000 a pound. I've tested products that cost that much and moisturize horribly. So there's no correlation between how much you pay and how well that product works.
I'm getting more and more mesmerized and in shock community here. So, a question I have then, I love this idea that you have this test. Is that a common test? I've never heard of it before. If I went to
No,
my local dermatologist and asked that,
no. No, it's not a common, you might find it. NASA uses it. They test skin. I know on one of their NASA projects uses it. Cosmetic chemists, sometimes companies, manufacturers would use it to test to make sure that their products are working. But no, it's not a common thing. I don't I have one colleague that I know of that has a corneometer in their office. But most of my colleagues intended, but they're not so much into the cosmetic formulations and the chemistry of it. I don't think that's their area of expertise.
so I, as a consumer, then does it become hit or miss that I go into my local store and there's a shelf of I don't know. To me, it appears hundreds of opportunities. Like,
Mhm.
what are some things I would look for besides some of the ingredients? But how do
You
you?
make a great question. This is what started my business. We have companies that make great products. We have the media that wants ad dollars, right? And ratings. So they'll sell sensationalism. They'll put out a headline that isn't even factual. We have consumers who don't understand the ingredient listing, and we have thousands of options out there. So what is the consumer to do? So that's why I wrote the book, The Skincare Hoax. I also test these products, and to get the information to my patients, that's why I started the website, Fryface, Fryface. I don't sell anything. I don't work for a company. Like every Amazon affiliate, we make 4%. To date, we've just donated it to charity. But I recommend on the website nationally and internationally known brands because they have the best resources to make safe, effective, and affordable products that my patients can get here locally where they live. If they go on vacation out west or anywhere, they can go pick up their replacements. And so that's why I tell my patients buy nationally and internationally known brands. And I think you'll find what you're looking for. And if they can't find it, that's why I designed the website. We test the products and we have a database of ones that work on the website.
A quick question: does it work different with different skin types? Like, maybe I'm a different ethnicity, and I know some people have oilier skin, and for me, I have drier skin. Do you have certain products for certain types of skin?
Even skin types is a marketing thing, right? Skin types in medical school refers to the amount of pigment you make. So a type 1 would be a really light skinned person who would burn. Skin types had more to do with how well you reacted to the sun, which was helpful information so the doctor knew what your risk was for skin cancer and how well you burned. Then in marketing, it became all of a sudden these skin types, dry and oily. If you have really oily skin, you might not need a moisturizer. Remember, water's there. You have your natural barrier. So to answer your question, I have found no particular ingredient that or no particular formulation that is better in individuals with darker complexions versus lighter complexions. Dry skin, yes, there are thicker products, more greasier products that are probably better occlusive, meaning they prevent water from evaporating. But that's not dependent on the pigment in the skin. That's dependent on how much water is in the skin.
Although I'm one of those drier, and I would give whole new meaning to the color that burns quickly. I step out and within 3 minutes, the face is red. I'm curious about, though, when you said the thicker, I have used some of those thicker, and I'm sorry, they're just awful to use. Your
Yes.
clothes
Yes.
stick to you, it damages your clothes, it
There are
irritates.
lighter options. The best moisturizers, I think, are the one you feel comfortable using. And usually they're water based. And the next ingredient is some sort of humectant. Remember those sponges that draw water into the surface? So an ingredient you might see is called glycerin. That's a common one. It's a common, very inexpensive humectant that draws water. It holds on to water. The hot ingredient now is hyaluronic acid. That's another great humectant, but it's hundreds of times more expensive than glycerin, but it's the sexy one to have in there. Occlusives are ingredients that create a film on the surface of the skin so water can't evaporate. And petroleum jelly, petrolatum, you'll see that in the back. The problem with it is it's very greasy, like you said. So to use smaller amounts, a lot of times manufacturers will add silicone derivatives, dimethicone. It's silkier feeling. So a lot of the better formulations will have petrolatum, but they'll also have some sort of silicone derivative, cyclomethicone or dimethicone, just to make it a better user experience. Like you said, nobody wants to be putting petroleum jelly on all over and then try to get dressed. It's not a good user experience. But this is the skill to a good cosmetic chemist to make it functional, a good moisturizer, but also give the user a good user experience. Right now, consumers only select product based on user experience. They don't really know if it's working or not. They have no way to know.
And that's what I was fascinated by me you mentioning that test. I thought, what an amazing thing to know what my dollars are being wasted or not. That's important to know. Oh my gosh. So, one of the questions that comes up for me then is you mentioned the word petroleum jelly. And I have to say, I remember that from childhood, but it's gotten a bad rap of late, or not
Mhm.
even of late, the last few decades.
Mhm.
Talk to me about petroleum jelly because when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard that since I was a kid. I didn't even know it was still considered.
I love it. I love petroleum jelly. It gets a bad rap because its origins is crude oil, and anything from crude oil gets a bad rap. Yes, crude oil is contaminated with all kinds of bad things. Petroleum jelly in cosmetic form is what they call USP. It's United States pharmacopoeia grade. It's purified many times over. There's no 1,4-dioxane or anything bad in it. Unlike perhaps petroleum jelly you might get out of a automotive shop, an industrial grade. I wouldn't recommend those, but you won't find those on the cosmetic aisles. So USP 100% petrolatum petroleum jelly, in my opinion, is the most versatile product on the market. It's actually used as the negative control when we do patch testing. We put petroleum jelly on one of the areas because nobody's allergic to it. I can almost say nobody. I've been doing this a long time. I don't think I've ever seen anyone allergic to petroleum jelly. It's got great uses. Runaway eyebrows. If you're sick around your nose, it's chafed. You can put it on. You can put it on your lips. I've had patients have trouble putting their earrings in. They put a little bit on the post of their earring. They can get it in. I want to strengthen your nails, massage your nails with it. Dry elbows, dry knees. It's just got so many uses that my opinion. And by the way, 1 pound jar is about $5. So it's just a great product to have. Cosmetic grade petroleum jelly. I'm a lover of it. I think it's a great product.
And I'm just fascinated because every part of my upbringing, my crunchiness or whatever you want to call it, would just go, no, to stay away from petroleum jelly. But I didn't really realize all that history and
Yeah.
formulation of it.
I
Okay.
have patients
To
too. They come
rewind.
in and they don't like petroleum jelly, but they're also injecting Botox. And I said, you take the most toxic substance on the planet and you're injecting it into your head, and they're complaining about putting a little petroleum jelly on their nails. We all pick and choose, Sharon. We all pick and choose.
That's a great comparison. Absolutely great. We need to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll talk more with Dr. Frey about cosmetics and our skincare and all sorts of things. I just love this. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And tonight we're here with Dr. Fayne Frey, and she is commonly known as the Ralph Nader of the skincare industry. You probably have figured that out why she's got that wonderful history behind her because it's amazing what she knows and it tells us about skincare and our skin and keeping it healthy. And since it's the largest organ in our body, I think it's really important that we all know about it. And you'll want to get her wonderful book. It's called The Skincare Hoax. And as she mentioned in there, she really goes into great detail about the different parts of your skin, the ways you keep your skin healthy, and even some of the chemicals to be aware of and the things to know about skincare products. Like, I had no idea there was a difference between the pharmaceutical and the cosmetics and the different laws and all of that. That is just amazing to me. A couple of things came to mind as I was thinking about skincare products and how they're sold. Now, you can go to certain stores and get mega size bottles or you get little size bottles. I know they'll probably have an expiration date on them, but once you open them, can you buy the big bottles and save money, or is it better to have the little bottles and once they're open, do they like go bad really fast?
A moisturizer you should use every day or twice a day, you should go through it. But if you kept in a cool place, it could last for a year to two. It can last a long time. I wouldn't leave it in a hot car. Chemical reactions occur in the heat. But even then, when you look at research, products that are in heat, they tend to last a long time and they're designed to do that. But again, keep it in a cool place, use your moisturizer regularly, and you'll go through it. I don't think that's an issue. I don't think you need to buy a lot of those little bottles. Personally, I use one large 16-ounce moisturizer bottle and I put it all over face, body, hands, and feet.
But when we get a moisturizer, we don't have to have one for the face, one for the hands, one for the feet, like sometimes marketing makes us think?
But they want market share. Skincare companies are great, but they want market share. I've seen products that are made for men and not for men, and they have the same ingredient listing. There are products that are sold in a tub for on the shelves, and then they have the same product sold for a baby. It's the same product. They want market share. It's a business, and they will do whatever they can to get that market share. It's a good product, but again, they have shareholders to appease. And so the answer to your question is you don't need all those products. We just don't need them.
Wow. Okay. Decided. Sometimes you get on your cosmetic counter at home, you got the face and the hands, and wow, I could just be using the other, just a generalized moisturizer.
Correct?
This is probably a gross question, but I'm going to ask it. So I know wash my hands and make sure that they're nice and clean before I touch the top of the bottle and stuff, but is it better to put it onto a cloth or something like that? Or can I just use nice clean hands to put it on?
Use your hands. Think about that washcloth that gets used over and over, that's hanging, that's moist, and sits there in the bathroom. Who's to say that's not contaminated?
Well,
It's not that
the one right
loofah.
out of my dryer isn't contaminated after I've read about
Right.
laundry.
In the loofah, right? That loofah scrub, it's sitting in moisture all, and it just sits there. Again, I think the hands and using your hands is smart. A clean hand. Even this whole idea of cleansing and cleansers are irritating, especially for people with sensitive skin. And again, I'm not talking about hand washing, right? There's plenty of science that shows using a cleanser on your hands, especially around food preparation or when we use the facilities, it definitely decreases GI disease and the spread of germs and all. But there is no science that shows using a cleanser on your face is beneficial, especially somebody with healthy skin. This is a cultural norm. I wash my face with water. I haven't put a cleanser on my face in decades. I use water-based makeup, water-based products. I wash it off with water, and it's fine. My skin is as healthy as anybody else's. And I did a survey many moons ago. We surveyed about 500 women, and about half of them only used water on their face. And I couldn't tell which ones did and which ones didn't. But I can tell you, cleansers are designed to remove things. And they don't just remove the oil and the dirt, which is, I understand the goal. They also remove those lipids that keep us waterproof and those humectants and the proteins that our skin needs to keep ourselves hydrated. And the cleansing ingredients can't distinguish between the good things and the bad things. It removes everything, which is a lot of times why people find cleansing their face with a cleanser is irritating. And if you have sensitive skin, I have patients who come in and say, whatever cleanser I use, my face burns. And I say to them, well, stop using a cleanser. And they do. And a lot of them are really happy. We don't need to expose ourselves to those, many of us. Now, if you wear oil-based makeup, you might want to use a small cleanser because you're going to have a dirty pillowcase and you're going to be doing a lot of laundry. But that's a whole separate issue. It's not because it's not good for you. It's because you want to be practical. So even the whole cleansing idea, there are parts of the world where people hardly use soap or shower at all. In America, the average American showers, 7 times a week? This is just something we're taught to do. But it doesn't mean it's good for us.
Okay. I'm thinking about things then. Let's take this skin cleansing, especially the face. We're taught this makeup remover, whatever it is, and then a toner and then a moisturizer, all of these different layers. And for the average person with the average skin, those are really not needed. And I'm
They're not needed. Well, now let me ask you, what's a makeup remover? Is water a makeup remover?
yeah, I use water-based makeup, so yes, it is.
Okay, so a makeup remover has really no meaning. It could be anything. Chocolate milk can remove makeup, right? There's no
Yeah, new marketing tactic.
Yes, there's no industry standard. There's no particular ingredient that constitutes something to be a makeup remover. Any surfactant, any cleanser is a makeup remover. Water itself is a makeup remover. Again, I don't think we need a makeup remover. Water and tapping your face with a dry towel will remove your makeup. So again, more marketing. A toner. What's a toner? Some toners have witch hazel in it, another very drying agent for someone with sensitive skin. Some toners don't have witch hazel. Some have alcohol, low levels of alcohol. We'll call them toners. Some have high levels of alcohol. We'll call them as astringents. So again, there's no federal guideline or standard formulation for toners. What's a primer? I don't know, primer is something I put on my wall before I'm going to paint it. My face isn't a wall, but it's formulated like a moisturizer. There's nothing in it. There's no ingredient that makes it a primer. Again, this is another way that the companies get market share and make a lot of products to get you to buy. You don't need a primer and a toner and an astringent and a makeup remover and an eye cream and a night cream and a day cream and a hand cream and a foot cream and a neck cream. I can go on and on. You don't need all these things.
Wow. Okay. I want to take it one step further. What about when maybe you go to an esthetician and they do wear like a scrub that takes off the first layer or something? Is that damaging to your skin?
Great question. So, if the top 20 layers are non viable, but those are the layers that are responsible for keeping your skin hydrated, why would you want to remove them?
That came to my mind when you started talking, and I'm like, "Oh, what about going to the esthetician and having the different scrubs or even something even more evasive where you're taking off layers of your skin?"
Look, it might feel good and it might be a fun day out with the girls. And there's nothing wrong with going out and enjoying a nice day in the spa. I'm not discouraging people to go out and have a good time. It feels good. It's fun. It's a great camaraderie. Have a good time. But I can tell you this, there is very little science that shows exfoliating the layers of skin is good for your skin. Matter of fact, some people and some studies show up to a third of people who get a facial will actually break out after that facial. And here's another word. What is a facial? There's nothing standardized about a facial. It's some arbitrary substance that they decide to put on your face. It could be tea bags, it could be peaches, it could be avocados, it could be rose petals. A facial can be anything. And if you leave it on for a period of time, we call it a mask. That's what a mask is. It's a clay, another arbitrary substance that we put on the skin. And again, it may feel good and it may be fun, and that's great to do that on occasion for a good time. But if you're asking me whether it's beneficial for your skin health, I have no evidence to prove that's the case whatsoever.
Wow. Okay. I'm still not giving up my spa day though.
Enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with having fun. But again, it's like sprinkles on an ice cream cone. They're colorful, they're playful, they're fun. You like the texture, but it's not changing the ice cream and it's not changing the cone. And if you like it, enjoy it, but that's not necessary.
Wow. Okay. This is amazing. Now, I want to open it up. We're down to about the last 10 minutes, and I know there's 100 questions I haven't asked because I've been mesmerized by Dr. Frey today. And you guys run over and get our book called The Skincare Hoax. Way more detail than we have time to cover. But Dr. Frey, what are a couple of questions that you wish I would have asked that I've been too mesmerized to ask?
Oh, what's a good one? I can't think of any particular question. I can tell you the best question is how do I get healthy skin? And I guess the answer is a healthy lifestyle. And we talked about sleep and nutritious diet and exercise. I'll add laughter. I don't have a lot of science about the laughter part, but I'm convinced laughing is really good for us. I would tell you about sunscreen. We didn't talk about the effects of using sunscreen every single day on all exposed skin as part of a comprehensive skincare program. Sunscreen is not, I'm putting it on and I'm going to go lie out. Sunscreen is you're as covered as you can be with a loose fitting blouse and maybe a brimmed hat and some sunglasses, but yet your skin is still exposed on your neck and your face and the back of your hands. So you apply that sunscreen. And I think that would be a really good way to be healthy, especially for people who have sensitive skin or skin conditions. And when it comes to sunscreen, we have two flavors. We didn't really talk about this, but in general, people with sensitive skin probably should stick with the mineral sunscreens, the ones that are formulated with zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, because they're less likely to react to those products. They do have a downside. Sometimes they can throw a white cast, so aesthetically, they're not always the best looking. But if you have sensitive skin, I think it's a small compromise. So that's an important piece of information that I think your listeners should be aware of.
I want to take it just a little tangential, not so much about cosmetics and things, but in the last couple of minutes, talk a little bit about what are some things when we have an autoimmune condition that we should be alert to. I'm thinking of things like, how do I know if this is psoriasis or just a patchy piece of skin? Or I know it's a huge question, but I'm thinking of psoriasis and eczema, all the different things that are immune related.
I spend the bulk of my day diagnosing and treating a skin cancer, and people ask me the same question. How do I know if I have skin cancer? And you're asking me, how do I know what my rash is? And the answer is, you're not going to know. That's why we have dermatologists who are truly expert in skin and they trained for Medical school, 4 years. They do more training in general that before they become dermatologists, where they do 3+ more years of skin training. But this is what you do know. If you have a growth that's new or anything that's changing in size, shape, or color, a wound that doesn't heal, that's bleeding or oozing, if you get a rash and you're moisturizing through it and it persists for 2, 3, 4 weeks, it's itching, it's oozing, you know that something isn't right. Seek dermatologic care. You don't have to know what it is, but you have to find it and find it early. And if you have one of those particular autoimmune diseases, your skin is also in charge of presenting immuno triggers to the body. It helps the immune system. So you want to keep the skin in good condition, which means moisturize if it's dry. Hydrated skin is a optimal skin, optimal health. It's like going for a long car ride. You pump your tires up so it's well maintained. You're going on the road with air. You put air in your tires so that they're pumped up so that they can hit the road and go for miles. Again, maintain your skin so it's hydrated. It will function best for you as an organ. Look at yourself once a month. Do a full body exam. Just check in the bathroom once a month. Look for anything changing, a new rash, a new growth. And if you find something and it doesn't go away, then you should seek medical attention.
Should we see a dermatologist on a consistent basis, similar to my optometrist, which I see yearly, and my dentist a couple of times a year? Is there a schedule for a dermatologist?
It depends. If you have a lot of moles, if you have skin cancer risk, if you have a history, family history, if you have an autoimmune disease, it's a great idea to be checked once a year because a lot of those diseases do present in the skin, and the skin is the window to the body. You can see it. So if you have healthy skin and you've been to your general doctor and they look at you and they see nothing and you don't have moles and you have no family history and no family risk, perhaps you don't need to see a dermatologist every year, but you should be checking yourself once a month.
Or have a close friend or family member, because I'm thinking I can never check my back. There are certain parts of me that I don't bend that way anymore.
You know what you do? That's a good point. You go into the bathroom and you get a little handheld mirror and you put your back to a mirror and you hold that handheld mirror up and you check your back and you check everywhere. Your little girly parts, you check everywhere because bad things can happen anywhere, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely. I was shocked when I got a skin cancer diagnosis, and it was in a place that I didn't think ever saw the sun. It was in my hair. And I was like, okay, I wouldn't have expected it there. Someplace like my nose that is out in the sun all the time. I was really surprised. So, anyway, everyone, this is Dr. Fayne Fry, and she is the author of the amazing book called The Skincare Hoax. I think it's required reading for everybody that has skin. So, to help, I think, start early. Like I said, I came from the generation of baby oil and sun, and I think now, years later, paying the price. So, if you have small ones, little kids and everything else, pay attention that the skin's a very important part of our being and not to be overlooked. Any final thoughts? And please, some more shameless self promotion, or we can find your website with all this great information as well as the book.
Yeah, Fryface, FRYFACE. You can contact us if I have any questions. The book information is there as well. There's a great database of products, again, made by nationally and internationally known brands that are safe, effective, and affordable, easy for people to find, and stay in good health. And remember, the things that really matter, I always say this, Sharon, kindness matters and health matters and accomplishments matter. And none of these things comes in a jar or a tube or a syringe. And that's really the big picture.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Fry. It's been such a wonder. And everyone get her book called The Skincare Hoax. It's available on Amazon as well as other places. And it's an awesome book. It's really required reading, especially if you have an autoimmune. And oh, one quick thought though. I'm just wondering, we barely touched on it, so we'll probably have to have you back. But what part does gut health play in the condition of our skin?
That's a great question. The science is very in its infancy. There's clearly a relationship. We are talking about that microbiome, all the bacteria that are in the gut. There's another microbiome on the skin. But to answer your question, I don't think anyone knows the real answer to that, but research is ongoing and it's going to be exciting to see what the future holds.
Oh, fantastic. And we're going to have her back because this is the science of Sharon, everyone. But after my journey here and from the depths of my autoimmune condition to my thriving now, gut health plays such a huge part in it. So I'd love to know more about that. And awesome, we didn't have time to talk about the microbiome on the skin either because I was surprised when I learned that too. So everyone, this is Dr. Fayne Fry, and is it fryface.com? fryface.com. And her book is called The Skincare Hoax. Everyone, have a great week, whatever your adventures, and join me next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.